Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings. This program airs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. and it is broadcast to you from Rajamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. I will be bringing this program to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce a song to you and also the band or the singer that performs the song. We'll talk about the singer a little bit. We'll talk about the main themes of the song, basically what it's all about. Then we're going to listen to the song and we'll get into the second part of the program after that, where we will talk about the words to the song or the lyrics. We're going to focus on anything that might be difficult to understand, any difficult vocabulary, slang terms, anything like that, anything hard to understand. Then we'll get the news and the latest updates from the university as usual.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Gray, and I am your host for the Musical Musings program. I'm an American teacher here at Rajamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. I've been teaching here for about 7 years, and I like to incorporate music into my teaching sometimes, and so that's why I'm bringing you this program. This is an interest of mine. So for today, we're going to talk about the song Copacabana by Barry Manilow. Now, let's first talk about Barry Manilow. His birth name was Barry Pincus. He was born in 1943. Most performers, when they use a name that's not their birth name, it's because they chose that as a stage name. He actually did not do that. His entire family basically changed their last name. So his family name actually is Manilow. They did change it. It was Pincus, but they have changed it to Manilow. So again, he was born in 1943. He's an American singer from New York City. And the genre he performs is generally soft rock. You know, a lot of times I talk about how genres get mixed a lot. And so it's hard to say a singer does one genre. And in fact, you might say that Barry Manilow also does some pop music. So he does cross over some. But his is a little cleaner than a lot of bands as far as what genre he does. It is mostly soft rock. He has a very interesting history because when he first started performing, well, I should say when he started doing real performances, because he did some musical things before this. But when he first started doing real performances, he would perform with a performer named Bette Midler. I'm not sure if we've done her yet in this program, but she is quite famous. She's quite famous. And he would perform with Bette Midler in a gay bathhouse in New York City, which seems like a very odd place to put on performances. Not only is it an odd place, but I'm not sure if you know what that term would mean, but here in Thailand, they do have a few of them, I think. They do have bathhouses. It's not generally what you would consider to be a bathhouse in, say, Japan or Korea, which is very popular. A lot of people use them. It is something more salacious, more naughty. And so it's an interesting place to have performers at. And in fact, it's not even really legal in America. I don't think it was legal back then, so I'm surprised how they got away with that. Here in Thailand, I'm not sure it's really legal here either, but I know they exist. So anyway, that's how he started performing, which is very interesting. performances at a gay bathhouse in New York City named the Continental Baths. Again, as I mentioned, had done some work before. He had written jingles. A jingle is like the music for a commercial. In fact, if they were more modern, you might know some of them because they're for companies you know, like KFC or McDonald's or Coke. He wrote their jingles. Now, they're older jingles. Of course, the jingles change over time, so they're probably not ones you would have ever heard. But he wrote their jingles back then. And in fact, he sung some of them as well. He actually performed some of them. He also wrote a lot of songs for other people. So, like I said, he was still doing a lot of music before he really started performing. But he didn't start performing until I believe that was in 1971 that he was performing with Bette Midler. And even then, he wasn't really doing much singing. He didn't do much singing, of course, when he was writing songs for other people because he wasn't singing the songs. And when he was writing the jingles for commercials, most of those he also was not singing. He did sing a few of them, so he was doing a little bit of singing, but mostly he was not a singer. He was also not a singer when he was performing with Bette Midler. I'm sure he joined in and sang some of the songs. I'm not overly familiar with the work they did, but I'm sure he probably did sing a little bit with her. But she was predominantly the singer, and he was playing piano. So he's also a piano player. So he played piano while she sang. So he really didn't get popular with his singing until about 1974 with the song Mandy. It was kind of interesting because it's a song he didn't even really like that much, and it's still one of his more popular songs today. Although I have to agree with Mr. Manilow, because I'm not a big hit of that song. I'm not a big fan of that song either, but a lot of people are. So that song came out in 1974, and that's really what launched him into fame. Since then, he's written many, many, many more hits, including ones that weren't even performed by him. He's continued to write songs for other people as well, but he has a lot of hit songs of his own that he's performed. So he's done a lot of great songs. Well, I'll mention some of them at the end of our program, so you can look up some of his other songs. An interesting personal thing about him is that early in his life he had gotten married. So when he's performing with Bette Midler at this bathhouse, which was a place for gay people, he was supposedly straight, and Bette Midler was supposedly straight. Well, she is straight. She's married, has children. But he actually did come out as gay late in life. It was quite late in life. In fact, he did marry his boyfriend when gay marriage became legal in America. In 2014, he married his boyfriend, but he actually still kept it secret after that until I believe 2017. He was kind of forced to talk about it because one of his friends talked about it in public. So he tried to keep it secret. One of the reasons he tried to keep it a secret is because a lot of his fan base is female, and a lot of them think he's very cute. They think he looks very cute. Of course, he's kind of old now, but because he was born in 1943, he does still perform. So he was worried that if all the ladies found out that he was gay, they wouldn't like him anymore, and so it would hurt his career. They didn't care. They didn't care. He probably got more popular when they found out. Because I think one of the reasons they like him is because he seems like a nice guy. So he's very non-threatening. He doesn't have a strong, threatening personality. Like some strong men can, and that actually can scare some women off sometimes. So he's very non-threatening. Well, that makes him even less threatening, right? Because he's not going to be interested in any of them. So he actually got probably more popular, and he was actually very surprised by that. So he's now quite happy to be out. All right. So one of the song we're going to do by him today is kind of an interesting one because it's not a song that he wrote. He wrote the music for it, so he is credited with the writing for it. But as far as the lyrics, I would guess he maybe changed some of the lyrics for sure, just because he took such an active part in everything. But primarily, he did not write this song, which is quite interesting, given how much he wrote. And it's one of his most popular songs. It is called the Copacabana. It was written in 1978. So again, this is about 4 years after he got popular. That's a weird name, right? Copacabana. It's named for a nightclub in New York. Now, that still might seem weird, right? I mean, that's not, I mean, Copacabana is not an English word. What kind of word is that? I believe, from the story I understand, it comes from a South American hotel as well, which he stayed at with his friends. In fact, the friends who wrote it. So they were talking about it, wondering, oh, anyone ever written a song about this? And I believe Copacabana is more of a Spanish word. So they were staying at this hotel, Spanish name for the hotel. They were wondering if anyone ever wrote a song with that name. They decided, oh, let's write a song about that. Actually, Manilow asked his friends to write the song. But they actually wrote it based on the nightclub of the same name that was in New York, even though they got the idea from the hotel of that name. Okay, so again, it was written by his two friends, and it's really just a story. It's a story about a woman named Lola, and it's about getting old. It's not just about getting old. The beginning part of the story is much different than that. It's about her finding love and then losing love. Um, but the end of the song is a little bit sad about her getting old. So I think that's really what the focus of the song is supposed to be. And it's interesting because I think it's a sad song, but it's kind of an upbeat song that a lot of people really like. So the words of the song don't really match with the music. Still, a lot of people like it. Okay, so let's get to the song. And as I always tell you, for those of you watching on YouTube, because of copyright issues, we cannot embed the video. So we're going to give you a link in the upper right. Please click on that link for the video, and then you can come right back here. And for those of you who are just listening via the audio, whether it's on streaming or whether you're listening on our actual radio here, you should be just fine. We can just drop the song in right here. So let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
All right, welcome back. So this is a song about love, lost love, and aging. It's got a lot of words, a lot of lines in the song. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly, more quickly than I usually like to, because we had a pretty long first segment of our show here today. We talked about a lot there. But I think that's okay. It's okay to go through this pretty quickly. I don't think there's a lot of difficult words to understand, and some of them might be place names or foreign words that I just need to tell you something very simple about. So let's get right to the lyrics. So we start out, her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. Okay, a showgirl, that's like a dancing girl at a nightclub, which I guess isn't that popular anymore. I mean, you think of some of the crazy areas up in Siloam in Bangkok, and you can think of like the dancing girls or the dancing boys, even at some of them. That's not really what they mean here. This is more kind of classic entertainment, and you don't see it very much nowadays. It used to be more popular, like dancing shows at a nightclub. Okay, so her name was Lola. She was a showgirl with yellow feathers in her hair and a dress cut down to there. Okay, so yellow feathers in her hair. So again, that's going to be her outfit, and a dress cut down to the lyrics say different things in there. I'm not really sure. I think it says a dress cut down to there. So it basically means the dress was probably, we don't see it because unless you're watching the video, So it's probably when you say cut down somewhere, it's probably kind of middle length dress. So maybe it comes down to her knees, something like that. Okay, it says she would merengue and do the cha cha. Okay, so here's a couple of foreign words that you may not understand: merengue and cha cha. Those are just Spanish names for a dance. That's all. So it's just saying she's dancing. That's all. She would merengue and do the cha cha. Okay. And while she tried to be a star, Tony always tended bar. Okay, so Tony, that's the name of a man. So when you say you're tending bar, that's the bartender. So that's the person that works at the bar. So she's trying to be a star with all of her dancing and performing, and he's the bartender. Okay. Across the crowded floor, they worked from 8 till 4. They were young and they had each other. Who could ask for more? Okay, so across the crowded floor. So they're probably dancing at opposite ends, which makes sense. The stage is probably at the front, so there's not going to be anything behind there. The bar is probably at the back. So across the crowded floor. Like I said, this is named after an actual nightclub in New York. So they probably had an actual setup that they knew when they were writing this song. And that makes sense. That's a normal setup. They worked from 8 till 4, so 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. early in the morning. Most of the bars in New York that I know of, I used to live in New York, close around 2 or 3. And back then, when this song was written, they probably closed even later. I don't know if they ever closed. So until 4 a.m., yeah, they might have closed for 2 or 3 hours until they opened back up. All right, so they work from 8 till 4. So that's not 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. No, 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 no. That's 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. all night long. They were young and they had each other. So when you say you have each other, it means they're in love, they're together, they're a couple. And who could ask for more? When we use that phrase, who could ask for more, it means you can't have anything else. Your life is perfect. So she's trying to be a star. He's a bartender, which I know that doesn't sound like a great job. It's actually not bad in America because in America, we like to give tips, which I know is not as common here in Thailand. And bartender can make a lot of money in tips if they're a good bartender. Good bartender can make a lot of money, actually. It's actually not a bad job. It does not sound like a good job. Your regular paycheck is going to be very small. They're not going to pay the bar is not going to pay you much, but you can make a lot of money in tips. So it can actually be a very good job. And it says across the crowded floor, so it's a crowded bar, so he probably is making a lot of money. So they have a great life. She's trying to be a star. He's making a lot of money at this being a bartender. They see each other all night long. It's a great life. Okay, we get to the chorus. At the Copacabana. Copa, that's just short for Copacabana. Just shorten the name. That's all. At the Copacabana, the hottest spot north of Havana. Okay, so there's another word that you might not know. Havana. Maybe some of you know that. It is the capital of Cuba. Back at this time, when this was written, Cuba had only just kind of started to become forbidden for US people from America, because Fidel Castro took over and things like that. And so it's not a very popular spot. But back earlier than that, which is when this story was set, this story is actually set back like in the 1930s and 40s. So back then, in the 1930s and 40s, before Fidel Castro came to power in Cuba, it was a big spot for people going to party because it's very close to the US. It's only about 90 miles off the coast of Florida. So it was a big spot for partying and nightclubs and things like that, bars, and Havana's the capital. So that's where everyone would go. So it's the hottest spot north of Havana. So when you're saying that something is a hot spot, it means very popular. Everyone wants to be there. That's what it means when it's hot. It doesn't mean hot like, whew, why it's hot. No, it means popular. Okay, so the hottest spot north of Havana at the Copacabana. Music and passion were always the fashion at the Copa. Okay, so that line should be pretty clear. Music and passion were always the fashion. When you say something is always the fashion or always in fashion, that means it's what people like to do. It's popular. So music and passion. So they loved the music there, passion. They were lots of romance going on. So that's what was happening at the nightclub. So music and passion were always the fashion at the Copa. They fell in love. I sang that wrong a little bit. Sorry about that. But they fell in love. Okay, so we're talking about Tony and Lola fell in love. Okay, then we get to the next verse, and here's where we start getting a little bit sad. Well, more than a little bit. The way the verse ends, it's more than a little bit. Okay, his name was Rico. He wore a diamond. He was escorted to his chair and saw Lola dancing there. Okay, so his name was Rico. That's his name, Rico. Another guy comes in. Okay, he wore a diamond, so probably impressive guy. Um, he was escorted to his chair. That means escort means someone brought him there. So he was brought to his chair and saw Lola dancing there. So he must have been sitting near where Lola was. And when she finished, he called her over. So then when she was done dancing, he called her over. And so he's probably wanting to get a little friendly with her. And then it says, but Rico went a bit too far. All right, going a bit too far. That probably means he's putting his hands on her. And of course, Tony is not going to like this. So then we get back to the next line. Tony sailed across the bar, and then the punches flew, and chairs were smashed into. Okay, so Tony sailed across the bar. Sailed, that usually means you're in a boat with a sail on it. We can use this word a different way. When we say Tony sailed across the bar, he obviously was not sailing. It means he went across very fast. So he ran across the bar over to where Rico and Lola were, and then the punches flew and chairs were smashed in too. So, in other words, they were smashing chairs over each other's heads, like you sometimes see in some movies. There was blood and a single gunshot, but just who shot who? Okay. I don't think I need to explain that one. There was blood and then a gunshot. And who shot who? Well, we get the chorus next, but they changed the chorus just a tiny bit right at the end. So we find out the answer here. At the Copacabana, the hottest spot north of Havana. At the Copacabana, music and passion were always the fashion. At the Copa, she lost her love. Okay, so we know what happened there. She lost her love. In other words, Rico shot and killed Tony. So Tony is now dead. So Lola has lost her love. Okay, so now we get to the final verse. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl, but that was 30 years ago when they used to have a show. So again, we got 30 years later, and you notice how it says when they used to have a show, like I was explaining to you. They don't really do that much anymore. This takes place around 1930s, 40s, sometime around there. So now we're talking about maybe 1970. That's really when this song was written, but it was written as if it was taking place earlier. And in the 1970s, you could still find a places that had these types of shows, but they weren't as common. They were really going out of style. They really started going out of style even into the 1960s. 1950s, they were probably still around. Okay. Now it's a disco, but not for Lola. All right, so now it's a disco. And interestingly enough, the real Copacabana is actually a disco. In fact, last I knew, it still exists and it still is a disco. Now, they may not play disco music, they probably play some other music. So it's really just a dance club, but it's still a dance club. Still in the dress she used to wear, faded feathers in her hair. So she's still wearing the dress, still wearing the feathers. She shows up to the bar 30 years later. She sits there so refined and drinks herself half blind. Okay, we do have two things here we need to explain. She sits there so refined. What does that mean, refined? When we talk about someone looking refined, it means they look very stylish, very classy. So she's sitting there in her dress with her feathers in her hair. Okay, and drinks herself half blind. What does that mean? Well, there used to be a thinking that if you drink too much, it'll make you blind. I don't know. I guess if you drink too much, I guess it could, but it's probably going to kill you before it makes you blind. So we're saying that she drinks herself half blind. So she's drinking a lot. She's drinking a lot. She's getting drunk. So she's really kind of in a very sad state, you know. Even though she looks nice, she looks so refined. It's really sad. It's 30 years later, same place. There's no show going on anymore. She still shows up in her dress and the feathers, and she's just sitting there at the bar drinking. Okay. She lost her youth and she lost her Tony. Now she's lost her mind. So, in other words, she's kind of gone a little bit crazy even by now. That's probably why she's still dressed up in her outfit. I mean, why are you going to dress up in that outfit 30 years later when there's no show going on? So, it's really a sad end to her life. It's been 30 years. She's old. She's lost her youth. That means she's old. She lost her Tony. It's her boyfriend. And now she's lost her mind. Okay. And then we have the chorus again, except once again, they changed the last line. And this time it says, "Don't fall in love." So again, kind of a sad song. It's actually not the last words. They repeat a little bit of the verse again. But basically, the last new words in the song are telling you not to fall in love. Because all of this, she's very sad now. And it's really all because Tony died. Because remember, Tony was probably making a lot of money too, like I explained. Being a bartender, especially back then too, back in the 1930s, 40s, when there were a lot fewer college-educated people. So that can even still be a pretty good job today. That was probably a really good job back then, when most people were actually blue-collar workers. So that was a great job, being the bartender at a place like this, crowded bar in New York City. He probably made a lot of money. So she's trying to become a star. He's making lots of money, exciting, being at this nightclub all night long every night. Great future ahead of them. He gets killed. It's all over. Story's over. So it's telling you, don't fall in love. Because maybe if she didn't fall in love, she would have done more just to pursue her own dreams by herself. And maybe she would have made it. Who knows? All right, so this is a great storytelling song. And oddly, for as many songs as he wrote, Barry Manilow is not really considered one of the great storytellers. And maybe it's because he didn't really write this song. But I think that's kind of interesting. All the songs he writes, great songs. And they're more like romantic songs and not really I mean, they're still going to tell a story, right? Because they're going to talk about two people together or whatever, things like that. So, I mean, he still tells stories, but they're not like these long stories like this. He's not really a storyteller. We've talked about some of those type of songwriters, people like Harry Chapin or Gordon Lightfoot or Jim Croce. We've talked about them. But Barry Manilow is not one of them. Nonetheless, this is a great storytelling song. Again, maybe it's because he didn't write it. But Barry Manilow does have a lot of other great songs, though. I'm just going to name a few of them, and it's going to be a pretty long list. Can't Smile Without You. Looks Like We Made It. I Write the Songs. That might be his most famous one. Mandy. This One's For You. I Made It Through the Rain. Even Now. Could It Be Magic? And there's lots more. He's got dozens of well-known songs. So I always encourage my viewers and listeners to check out our artists. Please make sure you check him out, especially if you like kind of softer music. We usually do mostly kind of soft music on here, but sometimes we'll do rock. We've even done a couple of heavy metal songs. Maybe we'll switch it up and do another heavy metal song next week. Who knows? Let's see what we do. I don't have next week planned out yet, but we might do a heavy metal song. I have a good idea for one next week. But if you like softer music, check out Barry Manilow. He's got a lot of great songs, and I also do know that kind of this older style is popular here in Thailand. So I think a lot of you might like a number of his songs. For today, we did Copacabana. All right. Thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please make sure you stay with us. Also, remember to tune back in next week when I will bring you another great song. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical